Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for coming to this talk. It's all about how we can use AI to basically do your Moodle admin for you. Brilliant, right? How we can use AI to make your support better, so how can you support your end users better, and also how can we improve the learning experiences for those learners as well. Just a bit of a background about us as a company. So Accipio is the Latin word for learn, grow and improve, and that's basically what we do for the Moodle sites that we help to manage for people. So we're a premium Moodle certified partner. We also have global expertise, so offices in the UK but also in New Zealand, and we've got a lot of AI expertise as well, which we've gained over the last 18 months or so. And we've won various awards, and that's largely for our Accipio 1 extensions. And so these basically are plugins for Moodle that then make it go further. So we've got one on a native shop for Moodle, for example, advanced quality assurance for grading, apprenticeship management, etc., etc. And we're trusted by some of the biggest brands in the world, from PepsiCo to the Premier League to government departments and universities as well. So moving on to the talk itself, I think it's fair to say that there's been this real strategic shift with AI. I think a lot of companies are really grappling with what to do. And for us at Accipio, we think our relevance is at stake. Ultimately, if we do not adapt and use AI to transform the way that we operate, we will be left behind and someone else will do that. So it's really mission critical for us. But I think there's also been a real change in expectations for learners and other people that might be using Moodle. They want instant support, they want more personalised support, they want smarter insights, and they want all this at a lower cost as well. So there's some real challenges to get that going. But I think what's really exciting is that AI in Moodle is a real game changer. It can really transform how Moodle is seen and how to turn into more of a proactive learning assistant rather than just a static LMS itself. So in terms of what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at how we can use AI for support. So this is how you, and I'm sure you will manage and look after your own Moodle sites, how you can improve the support that you offer to that Moodle site using AI. We're going to look at the Accipio agent in action. So this is an AI agent that will do your own admin through native chat. So for example, I want to create a course and enroll all these users, go away and do it for me, and we'll see that a working example of that. And then we'll also look at how we can then extend Moodle further using AI functionality as well. So I think to start with, if we're looking at support, what does best-in-class support look like in an AI world? And I think the first premise is that it's always on and it's instant. We've always prided ourselves as a company that we've had 10 minutes response times over the last 3 years, but that's not good enough anymore. I think you need to have that down to 10 seconds, so if someone has an issue, they can get in contact with you via the AI agent and resolve that issue before they can keep on going. I think there's also something around AI being more proactive and smarter in what it does. So it needs to anticipate that someone's having a problem, therefore try and solve that automatically and triage it before it actually even comes to us as a ticket. But I think there's also something there around all the context. So it's quite common for us to effectively get a ticket that comes into the support desk and someone says, I have a problem with X. We need to then go back and ask some more information around, tell me more about what you're doing at the time and what URL we're using. Can you give us a screenshot? And pulling all that context, I think, is really important as well. But I think fundamentally, it's about less admin for admins. You don't need to be uploading CSVs and working out why it's failing in terms of the upload process. AI can take that away from us and let you focus on the high priority stuff. But I think a central premise of the future of AI class support is that there's a human focus, and we're actually adding to our support team, not taking away from it. So we strongly believe that there's always going to be that person there to talk to if you need to. So we've built something which we call the Accipio AI agent, and this is something that we can share with you in terms of source code as well. But ultimately, there's a pop-up that appears in Moodle's Moodle sites for admins, and that allows them to do one of three things. Firstly, they can raise a ticket in the normal way, and that will be a human response, but it will also be assisted by AI. So some really intelligent stuff going on behind the scenes, which we'll get to in a moment. That means that it's recommending the next course of action for us without even having to do anything as well. We can also surface those insights to the person who is needing the support at that point in time, so they can get that instant advice in 10 seconds, and then they can keep on doing the thing that they were stuck on, which I think is a real game changer as well. And then finally, like I alluded to before, we can use the actual agent part of this to do the do. So do your admin tasks, etc. And we'll come to that later as well. So let's just take a bit of a look at what's happening behind the scenes. And I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Mitchell, who's going to briefly take you through some of the setup, and then pass on to Ed. Unfortunately, Mitchell couldn't be here today because he's had a new baby. So I will press play, and then Ed will take over.
People don't just expect great support anymore. They expect instant responses, personalised, context-based upskilling, and even someone to do the do for them. They expect problems solved before they even know they have them, and they want us to act as an extension of their team, but with minimal cost. So the challenge for my team is set. How do we take world-class support and make it even better using AI? First, we had to choose our AI foundation very carefully. We settled on Amazon Bedrock for some really crucial reasons. First of all, Amazon doesn't record any inference data, meaning that when we process information, there's no trail, and none of that data is being passed back to the model maintainers for training. For organizations handling sensitive learning data, this is critical. Second, Bedrock operates in virtually every AWS region, so we can meet data sovereignty requirements wherever our clients are based. Your data stays exactly where it needs to stay. But here's the real game changer. Bedrock gives us access to dozens of different AI models, continuously updated to the latest and greatest available. This means that we can tailor the right tool to each specific job, balancing cost, speed, and complexity independently for every function. Why use a sledgehammer when you need a scalpel, right? We identified several types of support that we could enhance with AI off the bat very, very quickly. The first was proactive support for us. This is where we prevent problems before they happen. So we've integrated AI directly into our monitoring stack. When an alarm triggers, our AI doesn't just alert us, it interprets what's happening, routes the issue to the correct team, determines the priority, and often starts the remediation automatically. Even better, it runs daily audits of our entire tech stack, spotting performance degradations and potential issues faster than any human could ever notice them. The second thing we could enhance was reactive support, the traditional support ticket through Zendesk. Now, Zendesk does have some AI tools, but frankly, they weren't great for our needs. We did a lot of testing, and Zendesk AI fell short and didn't allow us to aim for that holistic, strategic package of tools that we need. More on that later. So, we built our own. This was version 1, but now our AI continuously trains on our Moodle, Totra, and internal documentation. And when a ticket arrives, it completes the initial triage, creates a suggested action plan, assigns it to the right team, and adds detailed internal notes explaining its reasoning. These responses are exceptionally good, to the point where the support team rarely need to look outside of the AI advice. But here's where it gets very clever. If the AI thinks that DevOps, my team, will need to make a configuration change, say increasing the upload limit on a site, it automatically raises that task to us. And by the time our support agents get to a client ticket minutes later, the DevOps change is often already complete. Now, these things make our support better by helping us internally, but what about our clients? I'm pleased to say that we have built a prototype that enables clients to ask a question using our AI chat in their Moodle site. Our clients will be able to ask the AI agent to solve a problem, which pulls through all of the contextual information, including error logs and environment settings for that Moodle site. And then using that Moodle and Totra documentation that we spoke about before, it can solve many issues instantly. And if it can't, it gives the user the option to seamlessly hand off to a human with full context, raising a support ticket and invoking that reactive AI that we just talked about. They can also ask the agent to do something for them within limits. For example, add these users to my Moodle site. The AI will feed back on anything missing and then complete that action using the MCP server developed in-house at Accipio. What makes our AI different is that it's not just generic AI with Moodle knowledge. Our bot can optionally draw insights directly from your Moodle environments for the clients that opt in, and using an MCP server developed in-house by our team and combined with the deep knowledge of Accipio's policies and processes, it doesn't just give you text but answers, it gives you Accipio answers, tailored responses from an Accipio expert's perspective. These tools have been genuinely transformational. We're seeing support resolution times dropping from 10 minutes to 10 seconds for routine tasks, while our human experts get to focus on the complex, high-value problems that really need their expertise. But enough theory from me. I'd love to hand back to our presenters, who are going to show you exactly how these tools work in practice, including demonstrations of our MCP agent in action. I look forward to the next MoodleMoot, and I hope I can make that next one in person. Have a fantastic time.
Good morning, everyone. Don't let him go all over again, yeah? Well, lovely. Thank you all for being here today. My name's Ed, and I'm one of the partners at Accipio. I wanted to start very briefly by talking about the MCP, just as a bit of a level the playing field kind of thing. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. It's pretty important for you to have at least a very basic understanding of this for what we're going to cover next. So MCP is basically where the magic of this all starts. Think of MCP as the bridge. Model Context Protocol, MCP, is the bridge between your AI and your Moodle site. And you have one side, you have your Claude, you have your ChatGPT, whatever model you want to use. And on the other side, you have your Moodle site. And of course, I'm going to talk about multiple Moodle sites as well. That means that you talk to your AI in plain English, plain language, and that will translate that into API calls, talking to the Moodle site essentially, to get the data, use the data, and take actual tangible action for you. So we can truly say it's not just answering questions, it's it's doing the do, taking action for you. So as you can see, MCP sits in the middle. We have our models, and we have our Moodle site. Now, to make this actually kind of happen, we did a few quite simple things. So we started by building a very simple web service plugin, so to enable the MCP. As Sascha says, this is something we're looking to open source to make this a reality for all of you. But we built that web service and enabled it. Now, this is probably a very familiar process for a lot of you. Setting up any web service would be exactly the same. We create our custom service, we expose some key functions, and the key thing here is different services, different use cases can have different functions. So you might have read-only use cases, you might have read-write use cases, you might have internal use cases, external use cases. We're going to cover a few of those today, a few examples. All of those can have different functions attached, so you can guardrail what people can do, what actions people can take. And of course, because it's using those web service APIs, if you want to do more, if you want to take it to the next step, you can just build more endpoints. And as Moodle adds more endpoints, the functions and the capabilities of this continues to advance. The final step here is to connect to an MCP client. So in our case, we use the Cursor IDE, but there are lots of MCP clients you can use. And this is essentially the interface we talk to, the thing that goes and talks to the Moodle site and does the do, as it were. Now, I want to move on to a couple of examples. I'm going to run through 4 examples, and I'm essentially revisiting that third item that Sascha raised earlier, that Accipio AI agent. Firstly, though, I want to talk about a couple of the benefits and kind of the why we want to do this, and the kind of the outcome we were looking for and why we set that mission. So, first off, it's just about less admin. Admin is, it has to happen, but it's not the most enjoyable thing in the world. It doesn't stretch you, and also human error is rife throughout. So it allows us to do routine things much more quickly, handles those edge cases more autonomously, and helps us with that error rate. The second thing is around analytics. So it doesn't just do things faster, but it probably does things that we wouldn't otherwise do. It will transmute and handle and wrangle data without needing to be a data analyst. It will do that sort of stuff for us. And while not necessarily answering all those questions, it will give us a good starter for 10, surface some of those trends, and give us one layer below those standard reports. And thirdly, and probably most excitingly, is the kind of proactive step. So that move from reactive to proactive is kind of really where these things start to shine and things come to the fore. And this is where, we're heading off issues before they even arise. We're giving people answers before they have to get in touch. And that's not just external users, that's also the internal crowd. Things not getting escalated internally because internal staff are able to self-serve with the knowledge bank, with the information, with that troubleshooting that the AI can provide. Now, this is the first example I want to run through, a nice, simple example, and one that's been alluded to, I think, at least twice already in the talk, but let me run you through it just to kind of set the scene. Here is the AI basically being asked to do something quite simple. This is something that might take a few minutes, 10 minutes perhaps, maybe a little longer if you need to check a few things, but ultimately quite a simple task. The request is pretty simple: create this course, enroll this user, off you go. On the right, I hope you can see that, it will show you step by step, and this is a direct screenshot from the MCP client. This is exactly the output you would get from this process. It shows you step by step. It's broken that natural language into tasks that it needs to do. It runs through those tasks one by one, using the data returned from each of those endpoints naturally in the next steps. And as you can see, it creates that course, finds the user, enrolls that user, and gives us a nice success message to wrap it all up. And this isn't just a time saver. We're talking about 10 minutes to a few seconds. It's about what happens with that output, what more you can do, and doing more, higher impact, higher value, more enjoyable, and kind of next level stuff. Now, the second example I want to run through, slightly turning the dial a little bit on complexity. I've asked the AI to enroll 5 students, given it the course, and I've said, this is the twist. If those users don't exist, create them for me. I haven't given any other instructions. What you see there is exactly what we fed the AI. And again, you can see step by step behind the scenes what's happening. It takes us to find the courses, finds the users by their fields, sees if they exist. In this case, none of those users exist, so we've gone and created 5 users. We've then enrolled those users, and we're complete. And the key thing here is it's given us extra information, because we didn't say, give it this password. We didn't say, do whatever. So it's given us the assumptions it's made, the outcome that it's given, the password it's set, and it's forced password change on first login and that sort of stuff. And as we can see, our course then has those enrollments. Now, the key thing here is we're taking a step beyond just wasted admin time, uploading CSVs and stuff, and it's more autonomously solving those problems without input. The third example, now, again, turning the dial a little bit more on that complexity. We've just asked the AI, give me a rating report for the best 3 and the worst 3 students on this course. Now, a relatively simple one, but you can see how we've taken yet another step towards complexity. This would normally take quite some time. You have to export grade data, you have to filter it, you have to corral it into an exportable report, and that can often be quite muddled, especially when you have admin users in there and you have all of this sort of stuff going on. You can see we've used, again, you can see the steps it's gone through. It's used a number more endpoints, including get gradable users, to make sure we're actually talking about the right people, and takes us through, and as you can see, gives us this summary. The slightly more interesting thing here is that it's generated that report and downloaded it onto my system, so I can take that away straight away. I don't have to do anything else. I've given it one command, and I get that report to take away as a result. And there you can see the details of the report. So the key point here is we've moved beyond just making stuff faster. This is where the AI is actually doing stuff that a normal admin might not necessarily do. Piecing together various data, dealing with Excel, all of that sort of stuff. I'm sure many of you are very versed in that, but this is about equalizing the capability there. And you can see that full ranking as a result. So instead of spending time corralling data, dealing with filters, dealing with exports, dealing with Excel, we jump straight to the point that we can take action. So we ask that question, and we get a report at the end with, email addresses of people we might want to take action with. This is where AI really starts to show true value, not just being faster, but tangibly doing things that wouldn't otherwise happen. The fourth example I want to go through, and this is technically the final one, but I've added a 0.5 in after this. This is another one where AI really hits home, and this is an end user example. So this is just to paint a picture, but here we have a student who can't log in. I'm this student, I can't log in, can you help me? Now, this is a typical support ticket. I'm sure any one of you who's dealt with a support ticket will have had this issue come in. And sometimes it's very, very quick to solve. The user doesn't exist or whatever. But you can often find yourself checking quite a few things. You know, does the user exist? Are they suspended? Are they deleted? Is their authentication method disabled? Whatever. Is the site in maintenance mode? All of these sorts of things can need to be checked to verify that. What the AI does here is it checks all of those things for you. So it will, if you think about the problem that I've just talked you through there, that troubleshooting that you do, the AI thinks of those troubleshooting steps. And what we're talking about here is eliminating the obvious stuff, essentially. Is the account suspended? Does the user exist? Is their email correct? That sort of stuff. What it gives us is an output telling us exactly the result straight away. And we're talking, you know, input to output is seconds here, so much, much faster than any of that troubleshooting you'd need to do manually. And it checks the details, spots the issues. Instead of wasting time guessing passwords, waiting for forgotten password emails, or submitting a support ticket and waiting for a response, you get your answer straight away. Now, the power here, as we've said before, is about kind of prevention, being proactive and heading things off before they become issues, before they need to be escalated, before they need to be raised. And that's really where the value of this proposition is. Now, I promised a 0.5 example. That example that we've just said is one thing that you could do with this. How we're tangibly using this day-to-day in our business now is all of our internal support tickets get run through that model. So email comes in from client, and that the workflow, our Vista AI bot that Mitchell talked about briefly earlier, will go talk to the MCP server for that site, for that client, and do the initial diagnosis. As we've said, there are multiple other steps there. It will do the troubleshooting, it will raise tasks, it will do all of that, but key, fundamentally, it will give you this kind of output, which allows for kind of instant response. In 9 out of 10 cases where it's a simple routine ticket, that output will give you the problem, as you've seen with that example 4 I've just given you. That means that, you know, the human response is the impactful bit. It's the dealing with the client bit. It's dealing with the end user bit, where they can go and, you know, put their effort into the response and the relationship management rather than is this plugin enabled, etc. It also means that the stuff is there straight away. I don't need to go and check multiple places. Fundamentally, the thing that we've done here that when you do this yourself, you wouldn't necessarily need to do, is this is all internal notes. So you can see that there is an internal note on Zendesk. That's because we want our value add to be the human bit, which you can obviously do as well. But in future, in other worlds, that could be fully automated, of course. Now, I'm going to pass back to Sascha to talk briefly about the beyond the agent bit.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ed. So I think you can see some of this stuff we're doing is really exciting, but what's also really exciting is how we're extending Moodle functionality with AI in it. So this is the plugin stack that we call Accipio 1, which extends Moodle, and a few things that we're working on at the moment. So one is with our grading plugin. So just in terms of context, this is the plugin that does the quality assurance of assignment marking within Moodle. So let's just say someone uploads a piece of work, it needs to go through an internal verification process, an external verification process, some kind of triple blind marking, plagiarism checks, etc. That runs that whole process. So what we've built within this plugin already as a prototype is an AI grader. So instead of having a human doing that first mark, actually the AI does the mark, and once again it's exceptional. It really does produce outputs as good as a human does. We're also then baking AI into the quality assurance part of that journey, whereby actually you could have a human doing the first grade, and then you could get the AI to basically not just sample 20% of assignments to make sure they've been graded correctly. You can actually sample 100% of assignments and therefore pull out any kind of irregularities that you need to be thinking about. And then we're doing some work around AI detection in submissions as well, because that's a really, really critical issue with the existing way that universities do assignments at the moment. The apprenticeship plugin, this manages the end-to-end apprenticeship journey within Moodle. So once again, native plugins. It does things like a skill scan, off-the-job logs, visits, formal progress reviews, and even does all the onboarding compliance bits as well as an e-portfolio. So really powerful plugin stack there. And a lot of that journey actually involves a coach and an apprentice. And that coach is having to basically nudge that learner along this journey, making sure that they're submitting their work, they're making sure that they understand stuff, upskilling them, helping them to capture evidence. And so we've built an AI coach that can actually do a lot of that heavy lifting. And then the human interaction is, once again, more impactful rather than just that kind of standard nudging, and once again gives the learner instant support to that coach as well. Diagnose, so this is our 360 diagnostic tool within Moodle. So does all kinds of brilliant things, including unveiling hidden strengths and blind spots, and then recommending learning to a person who does that diagnostic. But what's really cool with AI is we can get more sophisticated around the way that we develop questions, the way that we actually validate the validity of those questions, but then also actually recommend bite-sized chunks of learning from anywhere across the learning platform rather than just in a SCORM itself. Discover, that's effectively a block that sits on a course page or a dashboard, and this will pull in insights from across the site based on what's recommended using AI. That's been in place for a long time. But where we're taking that next is we think that the future of content discovery within Moodle will not be someone going to a course and doing 2 hours worth of SCORMs and sitting a quiz. We think it's going to be much more personalised than that, based on a diagnostic that outputs what they need to learn, and then focusing the learning on the 10-minute chunks in each one of those SCORMs that's really relevant to them, with constant upskilling. So the idea with Discover is to then basically generate content on the fly, personalised to that learner from anywhere across the learning platform. So really excited about that product. Then we've also got a compliance suite of plugins that visualize compliance across an organization, allows you to kind of go deeper within the organization, look at different positions, roles, and then kind of signpost what percentage of the organization is compliant or not. But what AI does is it basically surfaces all those insights without us having to do any work. So it will basically tell us where there's problems. It will automatically nudge the manager of the manager to go and sort that compliance issue out. So the outcome that you get is fully compliant organizations. So I think finally what AI has allowed us to do from a development point of view is it's actually made our development processes quicker. We can build more, better. I mean, Accipio 1's already got close to about 2 million lines of code in it, so we've got a really good starting point to optimize and extend. But what it also does is it allows us to catch bugs before they even surface. So the AI detection with bugs is brilliant. And that means we get more reliable plugins and quicker continuous improvement cycles as well. So in conclusion, I think the key takeaways is AI can quite easily deliver better support to your learners. More proactive, smart. It also does your admin, so it does the heavy lifting for you. And it also can enrich the learner journey, which is really, really important as well. And then I think the final thought is about actually more fundamentally that AI within Moodle can change it from being this static learning management system into some kind of proactive learning assistant. So I think it's really, really exciting, and it's great that Martin's leading the AI project as well. So that's all we had to cover. So any questions?
Yeah. So we host it at the moment, but I guess in whatever case you wanted to do it, it might be different. So if you were wanting to do it yourself, you'd host the MCP. As we say, the code that enables it is what we're looking to kind of make available. And I presume there could be some allowance for an MCP service hosted by us as well. Not necessarily something we've looked at yet, though. Sorry, I'm meant to be repeating the questions. He's asking, is that the same with the AI assistant as well as the agent? The AI assistant is quite simply kind of a RAG situation, so it will really depend on your documentation, so it's probably something that you're wanting to do yourself. The thing that is slightly different about this is combining the assistant and the actual agentic piece into one interface so that the user just talks to one thing, and based on that, it will do whatever. So for the assistant part of it, it definitely needs your drive because it's about it being contextual. You could talk to Moodle docs and it wouldn't really give them a how do I access this course thing because it doesn't know anything about your use case. So I'd say that's probably something that definitely wants you at the driving seat of.
And real quick announcement before more questions. The timeline, because we got started late, all the times have been pushed back 15 minutes until the end of lunch. So lunch has been shortened by 15 minutes. And so the session changeover will happen at 11:45 to the next section.
Question over there.
Can you guarantee that the AI agent only access to those functions which is defined by the human administration and not combine it, not that the AI agent can combine those functions and access more things than the human wants to allow to access and data.
Sure. So the question there was, can we guarantee that the AI agent can only use those functions provisioned for it? And the simple answer is yes, in the exact same way as any web service would be restricted by those methods. It's using the core Moodle function there to create a web service with provisioned functions. Obviously, that user needs to have the right permissions, so there's that double check as well. So in exactly the same way as you restrict and create and control a typical REST web service or SOAP REST service or whatever you'd use, the MCP uses the exact same thing. So if they don't have the permission or don't have the function available to them, it will just fail. Or it won't even try and use it because the MCP won't know it can use it and won't get access to that function. So it's as watertight as any web service API and Moodle can be. At the front here.
Thank you. I was wondering, how does the agent learn from its mistakes? So how does it know? So it proposes solutions, maybe gets it right or not, or has a few solutions. How does it learn over time which ones are better and preferred by the users?
So the question is, how does the agent learn from itself over time? And it's a very good one. At the moment, the version we've got doesn't learn from itself. Everything is isolated and in point in time. Part of the reason there is storing and learning from, especially from multiple sites, creates many data protection questions. And those just aren't questions we have full answers to yet. And so everything is in isolation. As we said in the video, nothing is stored. So it deals with that in fly and returns it, and that's that. But it's something we're definitely looking at, and it's the natural next step. Over here, yeah.
Is it building its own LLM or not at that point yet? You're not building and hosting your own LLM?
So the question is, are we building or hosting our own LLM? And the answer is no. We're typically using Claude 3.7 to do most of this, and we're using AWS Bedrock to do that. So you don't need to host your own LLM. You just use that endpoint, and it provisions it all for you. In the middle there.
What's interesting on the support side of things, users are notorious for not giving any context to what help they need. Is there any ability for like the AI elements to understand the context of which courses they're in, and what courses that you're on, and how do you do it? Are there ways of using some of that user's information to help that support?
Absolutely, yeah. So, if a user said, how do I get access to this course? The MCP can go away and see if they're even enrolled. At the moment, we're not doing that because we don't allow the AI to respond to the user. So it couldn't say, you're not enrolled on this course or whatever. We would have that come to the desk, and then the support team would go back with that. But there is a world, quite a simple step, and a natural one, where if a ticket or a request came in that didn't have enough information, they just said, I can't log in, but gave no further information. You could have a special case where it responded and said, can you give me A, B, and C? And obviously chatbots and things often do that as well, so you could have that as a preliminary step. But at the moment, we're, baby steps on this sort of stuff. At the front here.
Hey, thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering about the hallucinations. During your development, were there any hallucinations? And if so, how do you make a risk assessment based on those hallucinations that you've been learning from?
Sure. So the question is, have we experienced hallucinations and what's our risk assessment of that? Of course, using any AI, you get some hallucinations of some sort. It's part of the reason and part of the judgment that we aren't allowing responses to go straight back to users. And this is a helper, this is eliminating the obvious, this isn't answering the question, this isn't necessarily trying to answer the question in every case. So, it's about training your internal staff who are using it to be vigilant. It's about controlled exposure to end users. So when you're setting up what end users can do, the functions they have available, you need to be pretty attuned with what's applicable and what's appropriate, and hence, make that control imprinted from the start. But ultimately, this is all pinned under data and responses from the Moodle side, which is pretty, entrenched, like real stuff. It's not about the AI going and magicking up some answer. It's about the MCP and the AI there is, I have this information, I want to find out about this user. The MCP is that magic, that glue that tells the AI what to do with X. In terms of hallucinations that we've experienced, we haven't experienced any that are major. And I think the reason is because as I said, the case that the AI, the gap the AI is filling is relatively simple because it's talking to an API, it's kind of facilitating the API, regurgitating that data and responding with it. As the models advance as well, it's got a lot better. I think when we started this, we were talking about Claude 3.0, and it was a lot more difficult. 3.5 made that a lot better, and 3.7 has made huge changes we haven't needed to move to 4, because it's been a lot better at that point. But, hallucinations is going to be mentioned in any AI talk, no doubt.
Do you collect any data?
No.
For example, those queries to AI, if, for example, AI doesn't know the answer, do you collect this information that AI doesn't know this, so we can improve and add this functionality so AI can answer these questions later?
So that's kind of about the assistant part of it, I guess, really, where I've asked a question and it doesn't know the answer in our documentation, and that's when it would be raised to a support ticket. So we get that feedback as a result of that, but the whole system intentionally doesn't capture data. It's not wanting to capture data. There was a hand in yellow at the back there. So the question is, allowing the AI to do all of these simple tasks, does that make admins get worse on more complex tasks in the long run? Good question. I think it's clearly far too early to tell. The whole point of what we're trying to do here is to allow more time to be spent on those complex tasks. So it's taking away password reset tickets and allowing you to spend time on that ticket of this thing just won't work and I don't know why, and doing more investigation. So our expectation, our hope is that it makes you better at complex tasks. I can see there's perhaps a bridge to cross with kind of more junior entry-level people and how they get up to speed with the platform, because often support is one of those things that's used as the legwork there. But this will allow those tickets to no longer really be part of the problem, and you spend your time learning more about the deeper depths of that kind of troubleshooting. I think at the back there.
Any plans to add Ollama as an endpoint?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Any plans to add Ollama as an endpoint?
So the question is, any plans to add Ollama as an endpoint? And the answer is you can use any model you want. AWS Bedrock lets you use dozens of models. If you want to use Mistral, if you want to use Ollama, if you want to use whatever, you can use any AI you want to do the MCP bit for you. We use Claude 3.7 because it's just worked for us and it's what we use internally for our LLM as well. But yeah, you can use any.
Well, Ollama is not an AI, it's the endpoint, rather than AWS.
Ollama is provisioned within... you mean is MCP going to work with Ollama?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Would you add an optional endpoint outside of AWS?
So if Ollama supports MCP, we haven't dabbled with Ollama in any great detail. If Ollama supports MCP, then you could do whatever you wish with that. What we've built here and what we've demoed to you today is pretty agnostic. You can use the plumbing for whatever you wish at whatever point. Over here.
Have you been collecting any admin users' data on what you've been developing, or are they associated to your developments?
What do you mean, sorry? Can you give me a few
Well, I was about thinking about the end users of your products, like the admin sites, administrators in the Moodle site. So how have they been involved in product development or validation or tests?
The short answer is not very much yet. What we've built is a prototype, so that's where that conversation starts. And obviously we're using these in our internal tools in that Zendesk VistaBot and that sort of thing. I think we want to get a little further down the road in bedding that in before we're talking to clients about it, but that prototype is that clear next step to involving admins. And then there's the kind of how do you roll it out, what functions do you give end user access, all that sort of stuff.
Thank you. And out of curiosity, are you using a Cloud Code or any other coding assistant to help you in the development, and how helpful is it?
We use Cursor, and we also use Juni AI in PHP Storm, depending on different developers' preferences, really. It's okay. It's not 10x. It's probably 30% plus. I think the real value we've seen, as Sascha alluded to, is in the kind of doing stuff that you wouldn't necessarily do otherwise. So automated QA of stuff, bug testing of stuff through AI, that sort of thing. That's probably where we've seen more value.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Over there. Sorry, there's a light there. I can't see you. So that's going to be down to your AWS Bedrock configuration, basically, in the model choice. So if you need masses and masses of data, you'd need to choose your model accordingly. We haven't come into that blocker at all, and we have done this on sites with tens of thousands of users. But it's really going to be, that's going to be part of your architecture decision in terms of what model you use. In terms of the context window over time, obviously everything's in isolation, so it doesn't build up and build up and build up. But I guess it's going to be down to the use cases as well. If you're talking about, does this user exist, that doesn't really matter because it's only returning what it's returning. If you're trying to, corral 10,000 users worth of grade data on a course, that's a different question, and so you're likely to need a larger context window for sure.
Since AI is getting a bit more integrated into admin support and feedback, does this mean that there is some kind of testing as well? From a testing standpoint, fairness, bias, or
So is the question about does an AI enable more fairness checking as a result? Is that the question, or?
Yeah, from a testing standpoint.
I'm sure it would. That's clearly a use case that you can apply. If you think about the example 3 that we went through, talking about getting grade data, you can use that sort of same applicable example to check the fairness of assessment and that sort of thing. I think that it's fair to say that AI is a magic tool, somewhat, but it still needs to be engineered, and it's about the solution engineering and the problem solving that you wrap around it. So, any of those problems that you want to solve, it's about what we're trying to give you today is a few examples and a few ideas of how we've applied it. But if there are other things you're wanting to check, there's by all means other routes to that. Any more for any more, or are we all good? Brilliant.
All right. Thank you very much, Edward and Sascha.